corgi. Watch a big corgi. Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a corgi, and he's wearing his Happy Hanukkah bow tie. I don't know if you can see it. It has little stars and dreidels on it. And if you would love your dog to have a Hanukkah bow tie, my sister offers a lot of products from this guy on her website. I do not know that she has that specific one, but you can certainly write to her and ask her to get you some Hanukkah ties for your dogs. They come in a smaller size as well, and I think an even bigger size if you happen to have a large dog. So today we're going to continue our talks about jobs that dogs have. We started with canine good citizens and therapy dogs and comfort dogs, emotional support dogs, search and rescue dogs, service dogs, and that brings us today to the most obvious one, police dogs. And I'll tell you, when I was a little girl, my grandmother had this book, which my sister and I read cover to cover all the time, and it was a beautiful hand-done painting of a dog, and then next to it a story about that breed of dog, and the German Shepherd was the police dog. And I so vividly recall that story of the dog and his relationship with his owner, his policeman owner, and the work they did. And it was just such a heartwarming story. I just love that book. Actually, I should go on eBay and try to locate it because it somehow has gotten lost in the family. And I don't think either of my sister or I have it. And it was just a nice little stupid book from the 50s, you know, to help little kids learn about dog breeds. But I remember the police dog story vividly, and I think the cover of the book was the German Shepherd. And it had an Airedale in it. You don't even hardly see those anymore. Quite a few in Provincetown. So today we're going to talk about what police dogs do. They're, as we know, often German Shepherds, but not always anymore. And the dog is used to do things like locate missing people, locate suspects. They can also do detection work for explosives, and they can also do, as we know, drug detection and things that can be carried on a person as well. So again, drugs and explosives. So these dogs have a variety of jobs which range from doing kind of the same kind of tracking and sniffing that we see with search and rescue dogs, as well as locating lost people and tracking suspects. Some of the most common breeds are German Shepherds and the Belgian Malinois, which is similar to a German Shepherd. I love them. I know a person who has one. They're beautiful dogs. And then they also, of course, use bloodhounds for tracking, and beagles are commonly used for drug sniffing. They're little. When you're working in an airport, like in an area where there's a lot of cargo being stored, a beagle can get up in there and really do a good job. And of course, beagles love to smell more than anything. They follow their noses. So being able to have a beagle do what he loves is a gift to the beagle and to the policeman whose work the beagle is assisting with. But they are all trained, all police dogs are trained from when they're puppies to do their particular jobs. And that's an important thing because it does take a dog a long time to learn how to be a police dog. And let's look at what some canine officers, as they're called, do. They are indeed law enforcement professionals, and they partner with somebody who's in law enforcement to do their duties. And canine officers, the person handling the dog, agree to the responsibility of the training and care for their canine assistants. And they often use scent specialty dogs to do tracking, as I said, or to even track evidence. So police dogs do really valuable work, and they are really a partner with their human handler. Tristan's looking out the window because it's snowing fairly hard here. I wish you could see it. Maybe I'll take the phone off the stand and then you'll be able to look out and see how beautiful it is. Although it's going to turn to ice and slush, then it won't be pretty. So anyway, these dogs do a lot of great work in the field, but they're also great representatives for police in general. And so they go into schools and they do a lot of special exhibits and they do outreach. And so these dogs can really be an important part of the police force. And it's not a very safe job for the dog. I mean, just like the police officer, the dog could be injured or shot at during the line of duty, because these dogs really do high-level assistance. And I don't know if anyone here saw, what was the name of that movie? The Dog's Purpose movie, but in the movie, the dog, one of his lives is as a police dog, and he's a German Shepherd, and he dies in a scene in that movie. It was the controversial scene with the saying whether or not the dog was having a hard time swimming in the waters that they showed on TV or on the movie, which of course was quite dramatic. But often it's dangerous for the dogs to do what they're doing. They're going into buildings, looking for drugs, looking for people that may be using drugs or selling drugs, and it's not easy work. And they have a close partnership with their police officer. They can do narcotics work. They can be in bomb units to help sniff out drugs and explosives. And dogs are also used in SWAT units to go into a building when, like, someone is taking siege of the building and not allowing people to go in or out, and they may have been holding a lot of people hostage. So dogs will also assist in the SWAT effort to try to liberate people being held hostage and things like that. And dogs also work with Navy SEALs, and that's another whole area that dogs do. It's pretty interesting. So dogs work in police service for a number of years, and they are known as K9, K-9, K9 units, which is, similar to the word canine, like what dog is used. So in many jurisdictions, it is against the law to kill or purposely injure a police dog. It's considered a felony. So it's, they are police officers. We have to respect them. And police dogs will work for 7 or 8 years, and often the breeds that they use are 11 to 14 years old on average. And remember, they start training them as puppies. So they're going to be starting to do their work when they're probably 2 years old, and then work for 7 years or so, which would make them around 10 years old when they retire. And then it can be tricky, but sometimes the dogs are adopted out. The vast majority of them continue to live with their police officer for the rest of their lives. However, you got to remember that fellow not only is, or woman, not only are they being a police officer, but they are now training their next dog, and then they're caring for the senior dog. So that can be a lot of work. And so sometimes people can't do that for whatever reason, and they adopt out the older dog. And it's quite tricky to get one of those dogs. You have to go through a lot more rigorous inspection to make sure that you're going to provide a good and loving home for this dog in his senior years. And they're great dogs, but sometimes they can be a little tricky because they've gotten very, like so many people who work in law enforcement, they might have symptoms of post-traumatic stress. They might be, what if you have a friend that comes over to a party who you hardly know maybe, and they have drugs in their pocket? What's the dog going to do? And how are you going to manage that situation? So it can be a little tricky to own a retired police service dog. You need lots of room for them to run. You need to make a commitment for their medical care. A lot of these dogs have sustained injuries and things in the line of work, and they can have complex medical situations that you are committed to managing. But they are great dogs to give a wonderful home to, especially if you're a fan of the German Shepherd breeds or some of the other breeds that they use. It's a wonderful thing to adopt these dogs. But like I said, the vast majority of them stay with their police officer for the rest of their lives. And police dogs also can be trained to bite. Police dogs can be trained when they're apprehending somebody to bite them and bring them down so that the police officer can then arrest the person or restrain them. And police dogs are trained to bite and keep a hold of the person, not to like attack the person. And I'm sure we've all seen pictures of the person in the dog bite suit with the big arm on them, that where the dog bites the arm, and the dog is trained to not let go, because it's part of apprehending that person, that the dog is fulfilling their duty by not allowing that person to be able to run away. And that allows the police officer time to catch up and to do what they need to do to apprehend that person. And of course, while they're on duty, most police dogs do live with their handlers, and they are part of their lives, and they are a very, very close team. And one of the most interesting films lately was something called Megan something, I don't know. You can still get it on demand if you have Comcast. And it was about a woman who was in the Army, and she bonded with kind of a rogue bomb sniffer dog while she was in the Army. And it's a true story, and she did a tremendous amount of work after she retired to get the dog home to be with her. She wanted to keep this dog. He was completely not appropriate to adopt out to another family, but she knew him and understood him, and she wanted to give him a home. And she had to go to the senators in her state. I mean, she did a lot of work to get this dog to be able to be with her. And because of their high-level training, they are not appropriate for family pets necessarily, or to go with any kind of like unaware pet owner. You know, lots of us can provide love, but can we provide the kind of home that a dog with that kind of training requires? And it's not so easy. So she did, of course, win and be able to give her dog a home for the rest of his life. And she's now a vet tech in New Jersey. And she used that dog and others that she trained to do bomb sniffing in New York City for a number of years when she was still working in law enforcement. So in that case, yes, the dogs live with their handlers, and yes, they would like to finish their days with them, but military dogs do not necessarily finish their days with their handlers. And let's see, what does it take to be a canine officer? To become a canine officer, you have to know that you would like to be a canine handler in order to be able to be a canine officer, and you have to make lots of preparations. The first thing you need to do to be a canine officer is become a police officer. And you may need to work for at least 2 years before you can take on the job of working with a canine partner. And, you know, it can take hours and hours of training, and it can take hours of working with the dog to become a really good partner with the dog. So it's really interesting work that police dogs do. They do a variety of different jobs, and they are really flexible. Sometimes they'll be used instead or before the search and rescue dogs come. And they really are a valuable part of law enforcement, especially in urban settings. These dogs do amazing work, just like so many dogs do. Even if your dog, like mine, is just sitting on my lap on a snowy day, that is a really important and good job for a dog to do. But police officers and their dogs do amazing work to keep us safe. And so we should definitely respect them and their work. And I really would advocate for people to try to keep their dog in their home when they retire, because nobody's going to understand and be able to take care of that dog as well as the officer who worked with that dog. And I have talked to lots of police officers about their canine companion, assistant dogs that help them with their jobs. And they have a lot of respect for their dogs. I mean, these dogs just do amazing work. And it's so incredible to me that they are so perfectly behaved and calm when they, for instance, come into a school setting to talk about their work. And then when they are working, the dog is very focused, very, very kind of different dog than what you see when he's doing outreach work at a college or a school or an elementary school. So lots of kudos to those dogs doing police work, and our other dogs too. So we will be back, I think, tomorrow. I don't know. We're on hold for the other job that I have as an educator that may or may not pull through tomorrow, in which case we'll be back for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi either Wednesday or Thursday morning. Thanks for joining us today. Everybody in New England, enjoy this little bit of snow we're having before it turns to ice and, gosh, no, they don't even know, sleet. And it is supposed to go up to a balmy 48 later today. And happy Hanukkah. Right, Tristan? Thanks for joining us, and I'll try to give you a look out into the world here where the snow is falling. It's very pretty. Out there is my yard, and down below the back fence is where the moose is left, what little there is, the vertebral column and one leg. And there's my canoe I can't use anymore because the beavers were apprehended and moved. And then over here, you can see a little bit of my garden that grew more wildlife than plants this year. So thanks for joining us on this snowy day. We'll see you soon.